Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 14th, 2026 edition of the Mid-Hudson Regional Information Center District Data Coordinator Meeting. If you have not already done so, please go ahead and sign into the chat with your full name and district. This gives us a roster of who attended. So when you register through Frontline My Learning, we are able to tick you off and say, yes, you did attend the meeting, and that information does go back to the administration in your district to let them know that you've attended. If you would be so kind to mute your microphones, turn your cameras off, unless you're one of the presenters, that saves us some trouble. And we are recording this meeting. We do have chat monitors, so if you have questions, typically we ask you to hold them to the end because this is a quick 1 hour meeting. But you should always feel free to ask questions in the chat. And here we go. So for our agenda, we have welcomed you. This is a little bit of logistics. We will start off with the due dates and timelines, letting you know what's coming up in your immediate future. We have some updates and reminders for you, followed by a few new things. Looking ahead to the future and time permitting, we will have availability for your voice questions. So starting off with due dates and timelines this morning, I'm going to pass that to Michelle.
Thank you, Helen, and good morning, everyone. There are several dates of interest that we'd like to highlight in the April to June timeframe. Before we get started, please note the links at the top. We've shared NYSED's 25-26 reporting timeline, the reporting roadmap or Gantt chart, and the import schedule. So if you haven't done so already, please be sure to bookmark them when the meeting assets are made available to you. All right, starting with April 22nd. April 22nd marks the monthly deadline for demographics, student enrollment, program services, day calendar, and student daily attendance data. It also marks the last date for the second submission of special education events data for the date range of July 1st to December 31st. Looking ahead to May, on May 13th, the final teacher out of cert data is due. Please note that the official New York State out of certification match is performed at level 2 based on data through May 15th, 2026, and the CSRS 328 out of certification report will be frozen as of May 15th as well. Also on May 13th, day calendar, course instructor assignment, and student class entry exit data are due. Districts are expected to continue to report these data through the end of the year as applicable. However, the timeline specifically addresses the need for LEAs to have this data available at L2RPT for verification and make necessary corrections in the source systems. May 27th is the monthly deadline for demographics, student enrollment, program services, day calendar, and student daily attendance data. The special ed end of year PD data systems reports, this is the VR 10 through 16 collection, is scheduled to open on June 1st. 25-26 data are required to be certified in the PD system by 2 dates, August 10th, 2026 for the VR 10, 13, 15, and 16, and September 14th, 2026 for the VR 11, 12, and 14. On June 3rd, L counts and immigrant student counts. This is the final data that is due. These data should reflect the counts at the time of the pull and are used for Title III L and immigrant allocations. To verify, use the CSRS 652 Annual Title III Allocation L Immigrant Counts Summary Report located in the Annual Outcomes folder at Level 2. Also on June 3rd, this is the final enrollment data for the UPK students that is due. The Office of Early Learning will use these data to confirm counts of UPK students enrolled on Beds Day and Child Count Day, which is May 13th, 2026, for the purpose of verifying final UPK payment amounts. And with that, we will move to our updates and reminders, starting with Sarah Liner from our Special Services team.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Good morning, everybody. I have quite a few updates for you all today, but I will try to go through them quickly for the sake of your time. So let's get started. Your special ed offices are quickly approaching that time of year where they're focusing their energy on those end of year reports that they have to certify in August, it's in September. So that's what we're going to be reviewing today, just the information that you guys need to know for that. So, we have to talk about the import schedule first, since this is most important for you guys, your district data coordinators. We have sources from Frontline that contain this data, and those are the assessment fact extract, the end of year snapshot, and of course, you're probably already familiar because we've talked about them a lot this year, the SE events extract. Now, the assessment fact extract and the COSIF auto import and the end of year snapshot have not started yet. That data is not yet available in the PD system. Because it's not available in the PD system, there's really no need to start it so soon. So you will see that started with import number 21 on June 1st. So keep an eye out for that. If you go looking for it today, you're not going to find it. However, as I just mentioned, the SC events are already auto importing into level 0 on a nightly basis. So you will continue to see that regularly. All right, first indicator we'll talk about is SPP Indicator 7, which is your preschool child outcomes summary, or the COSIF. Anytime you see the SPP, that stands for State Performance Plan, that means that's the indicator that NYSED only has your district certify every 6 years. So only the districts on your screen have to certify Indicator 7 for the 25-26 school year. Certification for Indicator 7 is due August 10th, 2026. This is a part of the assessment fact extract that I had mentioned. So you'll see the assessment COSIF in level 0 for these districts only. Next, please. Indicator 11, we have talked a bit about this one before because it is a part of the SC events. So all districts are required to submit this data throughout the year. That's why we've been talking about it so much. And certify at the end of the year, September 14th, 2026. You will see this file, a part of the SC events file. And I just want to talk about those quarterly submission dates. Michelle just mentioned submitting that data throughout the school year. The next one coming up is April 24th, which, yes, has been moved from the previous date, April 10th. So you've got a little bit more time to migrate the data for that submission date. Next up, we have indicator 12, again, a part of the SE events. This one focuses on early intervention students who are being referred to preschool special education. Same certification date. It actually should be September 14th, 2026 on my screen here, but all a part of the same information, the SC events, and the same thing applies with those quarterly submission dates. Got to get that information in there before certification. And all districts have to do this every year now. Last but not least, for the SE events, we have the parentally placed in non-public school students. Now, if your district does not have a non-public school within your district, you do still have to certify. However, it's going to be a lot easier because you're going to have 0 students to certify. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at your data if you see no students. But again, it's a part of the SE events. September 14th, 2026 is that certification date. And this is not a part of the quarterly submission date, but everybody will have to certify this in September. End of year snapshot, the VR13. So this is the big one for this time of year that all of our districts have due. It's preschool children who are provided special education programs and services during the current school year. So a little similar to the Bed Stay snapshot, if anybody is familiar with that. We're just looking at the whole year to see who was provided services throughout. Certification date for this is August 10th, 2026. I'm sorry about my slide. But this is a part of the end of year snapshot file. So this is one of those that you're not going to see in level 0 just yet. It will be starting June 1st. And again, all districts are required to submit and certify this data. SPP Indicator 8 Parent Involvement Survey. So now we're going to be moving on from the indicators where the source is exclusively Frontline IEP. SPP, yes, it's that state performance plan. So your district only has to certify this once every 6 years. This is information not coming from Frontline at all. You are contacted by a third party, the Potsdam Institute, for this information, and only the districts you see on the screen have to certify this survey for this year. SPP indicators 13 and 14. You see these together on the screen because you have to do these together at the same time. So for the 25-26 school year, the districts that you see on your screen do have to submit both of these. And again, it's not information that is coming from Frontline IEP. It is a third party institution that does reach out to your special ed offices to obtain this information to then be updated into the PD system. Verification report 10, the VR10. So all districts are required to certify the data for VR10. That certification date is August 10th, 2026. Now, really important to note, the information for the VR10 is for students with disabilities who have exited special education. So the source of this information is a two-parter. The special education data is coming from Frontline. So that's how the VR10 knows that the student is a student with a disability. However, all of the enrollment and exiting information that is reported in the VR10 is coming from your student management system. So that's where you will have to return to make any corrections or anything that is needed for any of the students that you see in the VR10 if you see something wrong. I usually have a lot of people reach out and say, the exiting information is incorrect in Frontline, which is okay. We would like that to match what's in the student management system. However, if we change that in Frontline, it does not change what's in the VR10. So we've got to remember to go back to the student management system for that. Suspension data. So this could come from Frontline if your district puts your suspension data for students with disabilities into Frontline. If not, you will have to find an alternative method to get it into. What we're looking at is suspensions for students with disabilities for the school year. That certification date is August 21st. Puts this information into Frontline. You have two options. You could just manually enter it into the PD system with our reports, or you can electronically submit. I have reviewed this process with the districts in our end of year workshops, but if you yourself have any questions, you can reach out to special services and we can walk you through what that electronic submission process looks like. Again, that's only going to help you out if your district puts your suspension data into Frontline. And then we have our VR16, which is our CEIS and our CCEIS data. Now, the NYSED has not come out with districts who are required or voluntarily will be reporting this data for this year. However, if you're familiar with it in years past because you have been required, or you do voluntarily report this data, then you might have to do that again. So keep an eye out. In years past, it's only been a very small number of districts in our region, about 3 districts report this data. What this data is if your district is using, whether they're voluntarily using or required by NYSED to use 15% of their IDEA funds to provide these coordinated early intervening services. And then what we're reporting on is later, was the child classified as a student with a disability? So that's what we're looking at. If you're unsure if your district has to report this data, whether required or voluntarily, you could always check with the person in your district who is in charge of allocating your grant money, because that's directly what this is referring to, those IDEA funds. All right, so wrapping up, this is just a little snippet of all of those certification dates that we reviewed, so you can sort of, keep this one slide as a little summary of those submission dates, or excuse me, certification dates. So August 10th, 2026 for your VR 15, 13, and 16 and 10. And I have all of the names written out for you. The VR, that's what you'll see in the PD system. And then the names, that's what you might hear us discuss them about commonly. August 21st, 2026, that's your PD8 suspension data. And then the last one that we have to worry about is September 14th, 2026 for your SE events. Now, I want to talk about that one real quick. When you're certifying this information in the PD system and you run into an issue and you're right up on certification day and you realize that there's an error and you can't certify accurately, historically, you are able to reach out to NYSED directly to request an extension for this data. However, for the SE events this year, you will not be able to do so because the data warehouse has to open for the next school year immediately after this certification date. So there just is no time to extend that data to keep pushing it through to the PD system. So just keep that in mind when we get to that September 14th certification date. You have to make sure you get that resolved. And lastly, migration dates, because this is what's important for you guys. So these are the last migration dates in coordinates with those certification dates. So the Wednesday before the Monday. That August 5th, 2026, that's the last day for your end of year data, your COSIF assessment, if your district has that due, your CS data, if your district has that due, because certification's that following Monday, August 10th. August 19th, 2026. This isn't tied to a certification. However, I do want to remind you that's the last day to migrate your demographic, enrollment, and program fact information. This could be really, really important if you had an error in any of these fields that you don't get resolved and you have to report on a student for a later event, such as the SE events. You could run into a bit of trouble if you don't get that resolved. You can't after that date. So pay attention to those as well. And then lastly, September 9th, 2026, that's the last day to migrate your SE event data. That's the last thing we have to do for this current school year. So it'll be here before you know it. All right, and that's all I have for you today. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your DDC meeting.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I do want to let everybody know that there were a couple of typos in the dates in Sarah's portion of the meeting. Those will be corrected before we send the slide deck out.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next up, we are going to hear from our testing services representative. I believe today we have Lori Adorian presenting. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Excellent.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to open up with the 3 through 8 CBT operational, which has been going in full swing since April 6th. We have until May 15th to finish all your testing. If you have any students that are missing, please reach out to one of us based on county. Dutchess is Mia, Orange is John, Sullivan Ulster are myself. We can get those transferred for you. If you have any students that aren't going to test, we want to remind you to enter their not testing code, and we'll remind you again in May. So if you want to wait a little bit, you can wait until towards the end of testing, just in case. But we have to make sure that those not testing codes get in there. For the paper, for those testing on paper, the rosters, labels, and answer sheets have all been delivered to you. If you need any additional, please reach out to us. I know a couple districts have, and we've been able to provide it. You can administer the paper-based the same time frame, April 6th through May 15th. NYSA slot speaking administration opened up on April 6th. That will run until May 22nd. The listening, reading, and writing begins May 4th, and that also will run to May 22nd. For NYSA, that opened on March 9th, and that also is going strong, and it has a long window and will be open until June 5th. If a student is not going to test, make sure you enter their special circumstance code. We do want to remind you that to begin any testing on a student, you have to first do the first contact survey, and the students must be rostered. And the testlets don't generate till about 24 hours after that first contact survey is submitted. Lastly, June Regents, we are printing the answer sheets, rosters, non-secure booklets. Keep an eye out for deliveries later this month, beginning of May, and then you can take a look at them, make sure we've gotten everything to you that you need. Lastly, yesterday we received the schools that have been selected for the Pearson Score Collection. OSA emailed us and then emailed you as well. We are going to be reaching out to you the next couple of days to let you know that the process for this year has changed from prior years. So we want to reiterate what that process has changed to and let you know. There is a list of districts on your screen, and hopefully you've all been notified. And that's it.
Thank you, Lori. All right, moving on to my team, data collection and reporting. We're going to go ahead and start off with Pam, keeping us on track.
Okay, good morning. A little paperwork here, so to speak. For those of you who joined late, please sign in with your full name and district into the chat. And also, Lori, I just wanted to bring your attention to, there is a question in the chat. It's directed toward your area, if you could take a look at that. And for those of you who don't have the chat open, you may want to do that because you may see questions go by that you're also curious about, and we try to answer those in the chat. So sorry, a little bit of bookkeeping there, but hopefully that helps out. Okay, so this is your monthly, nagging slide. But I just want to point out really some better news here right now. We have a nicest Q of 0 as of yesterday. Yay, thank you. And also on the student digital resources, we have now gone over 50%, which is not 99%, but we're heading in the right direction. So, keep working at it. I just want to let you know that even though it's climbing, there were still 17 districts who decreased slightly in their percentage from last month to this month. And this happens because as you get new students who enroll, if you don't submit a survey for them, obviously your percentage is going to decline. So make sure you're capturing those new students either through the registrar or, through initial contact to collect that survey data for the new students. So, keep it up. And now we're going to shift over to the left-hand side, the left-hand box, and our errors have declined. Mainly that was due to straightening out student attendance issues that had come into play, during snow days and emergency days and whatnot. But our warning errors are still up and they're climbing. And so let's take the next couple slides and take a look at what areas that information is having issues with. Okay, so we're down in the overall number of errors, but we're still seeing some of them that are just not getting cleared up. So I implore you to, get into this. If you haven't looked at your level 1C report yet for your district, this 2,500 errors means there's 2,500 records that are not migrating to level 2. So this data is not in your final reports. It will not be part of your certification. So these should be cleared up as quickly as possible. I do see an uptick in the area of CIA and those domains related to out of cert processing. So I take that as an indication of you're working on those areas in anticipation of the upcoming deadline. So keep it up. I want to point out a new item at the bottom. Course instructor assignment staff IDs are being flagged as not a teacher. In other words, you're reporting a staff ID for someone who does not have the teacher indicator on in staff snapshot. Okay. It may be that that person should be identified as a teacher, but it may also be that that's not a person. It might be a teaching assistant, or someone who is not eligible to be listed as the teacher of record for a course. So you need to make sure all of those links, and Michelle's going to talk a little bit more about courses, the certification information later on. But I just wanted to point that out, that number is climbing, and we're also seeing an increase in the missing course instructor assignments. Now on to the warning area. We haven't seen a lot change in this area. So again, I implore you to take a look at it. There are some, even though they're listed as warnings, there are some items that are actually incorrect and should be corrected. For example, crisis impact code is being reported for a second year for 15 students, and it can only be reported in the first year. So those records should, if you're getting that error, you should go back and end that record as of June 30th of last year, so that it no longer exports. And, as you can see, you're going down a couple from there. We have 45 students who have a grade 9 entry date, but are being reported in grade 7 or 8. Now, the grade 9 entry date is putting them into that cohort. So you want to update that information and make sure that you're not putting those students into a cohort prior to the time that they enter 9th grade. So this is not a comprehensive list of everything that is out there. It's an indication that there are data discrepancies that need to be looked at. And, you need to go in and take a look at your level 1C report to make sure that you're cleaning up your data. Okay, and moving on to a new slide. As I promised last month, the current UIAS report for the region shows over 8,000 errors. One area in particular that you might want to take a look at is to look and see in the UIAS report if you have any false dropouts. This means these are students that you're reporting as a dropout, but they are enrolled somewhere in New York State. These will count against your graduation rate, and they will count toward your dropout rate for the year. So the ideal here would be that this number is 0, that there are no false dropouts reported. If a student goes and enrolls somewhere else, you definitely should change that exit code to reflect that they are now enrolled elsewhere and not report them as a dropout. So as you can see, there's a significant number. Not all of these can be corrected, but certainly can make progress towards cleaning up that data, and moving, moving towards a better, lower numbers here. Okay. And now I'm going to Michelle's going to provide you with some resources that you might find useful in working on your UAS report if you're not as experienced with doing that as you might be. So go ahead, Michelle.
All right, thanks, Pam. So yes, if you'd like to learn more about the UIS report, explore our 3-part microlearning tutorial. There are links and QR codes available on the slide, and the links have also been added to the Data Warehouse Resource Library on our website in the L2RPT section. Module 1 provides you with the basics. What is the report? Where is it located? The report guide, what information is included on the report, etc. Module 2 delves into the report details and discusses use case types and use case subtypes. There are also links to videos describing scenarios for disappearing students, false dropouts, false transfers, and simultaneous enrollments. Finally, Module 3 addresses best practices and approaches for resolving UIAS cases. All right. And with that, I'll pass it back to Pam.
Okay. And I was just looking in the chat. Arlene had asked a question about if a grade 9 entry date mismatch was corrected in level 0, will you continue to receive this warning? Yes, you will. The reason for that is you're changing the information in level 0 historical, but on import, the data that you import is being compared to the data that is in our local instance of level 0. So basically, if you continue to receive that error, you just want to go to the student profile report in level 2, after allowing it to refresh and verify that your changes have migrated through to level 2. Okay, so we're going to talk about state course codes for a minute. This does get confusing, and we want to remind you of our mantra that state course codes need to align with the curriculum being taught. And this is especially important as we transition from older learning standards to newer learning standards for the regents, that the new state course codes should be used when the new curriculum is being taught. Okay. And as much as we'd love to be able to give you a specific answer when you ask us what code you should use, since we don't know what curriculum is being taught in your district, and you may likely not know that information either, you need to have that conversation with either the guidance counselors or the teaching staff to determine if they're teaching the older curriculum or the new curriculum, and the state course code should be adjusted accordingly. And unfortunately, we can't answer that question for you. The only thing we can say is, going back to the mantra, it must align with the curriculum being taught. So let's look at, in the area of the regents, the changes that have transitioned over the last few years and are continuing. So this shows there's some transitions that have been completed, like Algebra 1 and Geometry. They're all on the new curriculum. Those that are continuing to change are Earth and Space Science, Biology, Algebra 2, ELA, Chemistry, and Physics. And you notice the difference. So if we look at Earth and Space Science, the first administration of the new exam was last June. The last administration of the old exam is this June. So there's an overlap between those two learning standards, and districts can be teaching the old curriculum, or they could be teaching the new curriculum. Your course code should align with the curriculum that you are teaching. Okay. On the flip side, we have Algebra 2, where the first administration of the new exam is this June, but the last administration of the old exam was January. So anyone who tested up through January would be taking the old exam and should have been taught using the old curriculum. Those who are taking Algebra 2 for the first time this year and taking the Regents in June are being taught the new curriculum and will be taking the new exam. Yeah. So just ensure that your state course codes align with the curriculum being taught. So any Algebra 2 course, full year course that ended in June should have the new codes assigned to it. Okay. We're going to move on to the next slide that breaks this down a little bit and actually shows you the codes to be used. So you see that Earth Science, which is one of those that has a transition period. The old course code would be 03001 and the new course code would be 03008. Here are the assessment codes linked to those. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the pattern, 01 is the January assessment, 06 is the June assessment, and 08 is the August assessment. And you'll notice that there are lab codes, and there is a distinct lab code for the old curriculum, the Earth Science, and the new curriculum, the Earth and Space Science. State Ed went back and forth on this, where at one point in time they used the same lab code, and that was last year, for either curriculum, and now they've gone back to having a distinct lab code for each of those. So you'll want to check those in your SMS to make sure that you have the appropriate lab code that matches the curriculum being taught. So Earth Science and Biology, those are the two that the old curriculum is, this is the last year for the old curriculum. Okay. And on to the next slide, this will show us chemistry and physics, where this year is the first year for the new curriculum. You notice there's only one assessment code because the only assessment that will be given using the new curriculum, based on the new curriculum, will be the June one. Okay. And again, the lab codes vary between the two different learning standards. So the old and the new. And the Algebra 2 and ELA both have their first administration of the new curriculum, new assessments in June, and therefore there is one assessment code for each of those. Next year, you'll see the 08 for August, and you'll see the 01 come in for January in the 26-27 school year. Okay, if you have any questions on that, because it does get a little bit messy at times, give us a call and we'll try to work with you to figure that out. Okay.
Thanks, Pam. We're going to pass to Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Pam. Or Helen and Helen. As I mentioned earlier, the out-of-cert data is due May 13th at noon, so it's not too far off, and it can take a bit of effort to verify and update because there are many moving parts. New Level 0 edits put in place over the last couple of years have translated into fewer teachers coming up as not certified, but it's better to be safe than sorry, as the saying goes. Please start the process if you have not done so already and continue to monitor this data up through the deadline. As part of the match process, NYSED will perform a match on the last primary teacher assigned to the course section at the time of the poll. So how does this collection work? The short version is that NYSED reviews the staff and course data submitted through SIRS, namely staff snapshot and course instructor assignment, along with teacher certification data from the Office of Teaching Initiatives, or OTI, to determine which instructors are certified to teach the courses to which they are assigned and which are not. The SIRS 328 will show teachers listed out of certification when the certified status in the criteria is set to no. The report guide is linked on the slide and will be available when you receive the assets after the meeting. You can use the SIRS 329 to see what certification areas your teachers currently hold, as well as the crosswalk to see how the certification areas are aligned to state course codes. Links to the SIRS 329 report guide and crosswalk are on the slide as well. And you may ask, why is this collection important? The main reason is that the results are reported publicly on data.nised.gov. There is a staff qualifications section on the report card labeled Teachers Teaching Out of Their Subject or Field of Certification. For those of you who'd like more information about this collection, we've got you covered. To support your understanding of the teacher certification matching process, we created a quick reference guide introduced at last month's DDC meeting. It is available at the link on the slide and has been posted to the Data Warehouse Resource Library on our website in the staff section. The quick reference guide will walk you through how the match process works and review several troubleshooting tips when you encounter teachers who are listed as teaching out of certification. But wait, there's more. We have created 8 30-minute virtual meetings, which are designed to address questions, assist with determining why a teacher is appearing as out of certification, and discuss possible resolutions. The dates and times are listed on the slide. Click the Schedule a Session Here link when you receive the meeting assets to book a session. A Google Meet link will be provided once booked. In order to make the most of your session, please review the SIRS 328 and other associated reports and prepare a list of topics or questions to be addressed. If you are a participant in our mentorship program this year, please schedule a time for this review with your mentor instead of booking one of these meetings. All right, so now I will turn things over to Sam.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to start with a topic that we previously reviewed with the Met's office in a prior DDC meeting, but it's important enough to go over again. So migrants should only be reported to SIRS if the district has received their certificate of eligibility, the COE, from the Mid-Hudson Met's office. If you believe that you do have a migrant student that your district has not received a COE for, be sure to contact the Met's office before reporting them to SIRS. And their contact information is here. We previously shared that as well, in case you do need to reach out to them. To check your current reported migrants, you can check those in SIRS on the SIRS 401 reasonableness report. Just make sure that you do choose all locations and check that migrant category. And that 401 does update nightly and is based on your last migration. Okay, so you might have noticed in the chat before there was a question regarding student infraction. So there has been a slight update to it because it's been a big topic of discussion between the RICS and the state lately. There have been some bumps in the road with reporting this year. So State Ed has decided for the 25-26 school year and the 26-27, the PD8 is going to remain the official collection for student infraction. So what does that mean exactly for you guys? So you're still going to continue reporting student infraction through your SMS and importing it to level 0. And we're just asking, the state's asking that you're doing this to the best of your ability. So try to report student infraction the best that you can. But the full implementation where SIRS will begin loading to the PD8 will now be in the 27-28 school year. So this extension that they're hoping is going to allow like some additional time to address interesting questions that have popped up that we've brought to the state to refine hopefully the guidance from the state. They have been working on an FAQ for student infraction. It hasn't been released yet. We're still ironing out some of those bumps. And hopefully it'll ensure accurate reporting once that transition happens. So basically, in a nutshell, keep doing what you're doing and make sure that you are importing that data, and that as this is a newer collection, make sure that somebody in your district is entering that data into your SMS. So that's that. I don't see any questions regarding it, so I'm going to move on. So moving on to our What's New section. We do have a message from NYSED. So recently it came to our attention that the 3-year beds enrollment summary report that you do find on the IRSP and the week-to-week variance report. They did have incorrect UPK counts. So these are the reports on the IRSP. So NYSED is aware of it. They're working on addressing this, the last that we heard. And they just ask that you look at your data for the UPK counts on that BEDS report, the SIRS 316, for those accurate bed stay counts. Okay. So as you might have already noticed, if you've been in level 2 there, the SIRS 201, that total cohort report was sunset in 24-25 school year. And it has been replaced by the SIRS 205, the total cohort summary and career pathways report. So you can see how it's set up here and all the different filter options. What's nice is the SIRS 205 does have a report guide as a new report, so that should help you navigate it, but it's pretty, I think, user-friendly in using it. So you should have an easy time with that. Okay. So the April task list is now available at the link. And this month's April Spotlight I did is National Poetry Month. So I do want this task list to be something you use and find helpful to stay on top of data reporting requirements. So if you're in there and you're like, oh, there's a topic that I really think will help other DDCs, email it to me at our data warehouse email, and I can look into adding that. That's how we came about with the BOCES specific tasks. The BOCES suggested it, and we did add that to the task list. And now those BOCES specific items are highlighted in coral. So this is a great resource for new DDCs, but also seasoned ones. There might be things on here that you might not realize that you should be looking at on a monthly basis. So check it out. Okay, so in the task list, I just want to highlight a helpful feature, if you will. We call it the SIRS Manual Tip of the Month. So each month I try to pick like an FAQ that comes up in our data warehouse email or something I think is just confusing from the SIRS manual. And it could be something that's like sprinkled in multiple places in the SIRS manual, and then you have to combine it together to make sense of it and digest it in a way where you can apply it to the New York State data reporting. And that's the SIRS tip of the month. So this month, the question is, does it matter how a student is exited for an ACEP versus an HSE program? So if you haven't already, go take a look. You'll see there's also, I've linked the prior SIRS tips of the month in case you're curious about what they might have been previously. If you have like a topic that you think is something that's confusing, again, send it to me and I'll look into maybe adding this for a future SIRS tip. Okay, so moving over to our level 1 report guides for April, we have, we're releasing 8 new guides, and also the level 1 directory has been reported to reflect these 8 guides. And this month, most of the guides are in relation to assessments, as we're in that time of the year, right? But one thing I wanted to point out is, have you ever needed an export for a vendor? I know over the years I've gotten some questions about that. So I just want to point out on level 1, there is a export folder. And when you go into that folder, there's all different exports, like for ClearTrack, PowerSchool, Schoolzilla, Datamate, Linkit. So we created a guide for the exports. So if you go into that level 1 guide, it'll show you all the different possible exports that you could have in the format you need for those. So that could maybe help you save you some time looking for that data in other places. Now, again, you will need the passkey on our website to keep that data secure, and that is that Get Me in DDC. Okay, so I did want to loop back to this because we went over this in our last DDC meeting, but we did get a question that led to some further information. So the guide hasn't changed with this, but we did have an addition. So last time somebody asked if January 26th should have been coded as an emergency day. And yes, it should, because the governor did declare a state of emergency on that day, as well as February 23rd. So if your LEA closed, only if it closed, you didn't switch to remote or anything, then that day type in your SIRS day calendar should be an emergency day. For any questions about your 180 days, meeting it for the waiver, for state aid, we can't really speak to those details, so I have linked their FAQ and their contact information here as well. So nothing with that has changed. We just added the January 26th date here for your reference. And I'm going to pass it back to Pam. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry, Pam was taking a sip. All right, we've been including this information for the last couple months regarding Cognos changes. Now, Cognos is the system that's used for both our level 1 and level 2 and all their reports. So this is the list of level 2 reports that have been changed in the recent updates. For majority, there's a lot of cosmetic changes. Some information has been added to the CERS 116, which is the attendance rate report. And you can see that some of them that there were name changes just to try to achieve a little more consistency in the naming conventions. The biggest change that we have recently implemented is that 3 of the attendance reports are now combined into the new CERS 377 report. And so that report will now contain information from all the CERS 360, 371, and 375 reports. So you may want to take a look at that and check it out, and hopefully that will bring all that information together and make it a little easier to process for you. And you'll see that the previous reports, have been, now they say they're only applicable through school year 2025. So for the current school year, you should be using the new CERS 377 to generate your reports, and that'll, continue through certification of those reports. Okay. That's it, and I'm going to pass it back over to Michelle.
Thanks, Pam. Just a quick reminder about the Getting Answers tutorial we shared last month. District data reporting isn't about memorizing, it's about knowing where to go for answers. This resource is designed to help you to do exactly that. The tutorial walks you through key NYSED resources and the MHRAC Data Warehouse Resource Library, tools designed to make your work more efficient and a lot less overwhelming. If you haven't explored it yet, take a few minutes to check it out using the QR code or link in the slide deck. And if you have, thank you. We'd love your we'd love your input. Your feedback and shared resources will help us continue building a library that truly supports your work. All right, and speaking about resources and support, are you anticipating a new DDC, CIO, or staff member for the upcoming school year who needs to get up to speed with the CERS data collection and reporting process? Good news. Enrollment for the 26-27 cohort of our data reporting mentorship program is now open, and it is designed to support you every step of the way. Through monthly group Zoom sessions, mentees will engage in meaningful discussions around state reporting requirements, best practices, and common challenges. These sessions aim to keep participants informed and connected. Mentees also benefit from personalized one-on-one mentorship, where they can meet directly with an experienced mentor to focus on their district-specific needs, whether they're troubleshooting issues or building long-term strategies. Again, we're here to help. You can see the areas of focus on the slide, building and sustaining effective data verification teams, understanding the full CERS data flow from source systems to reporting applications, navigating the error resolution process, using level 0, 1, and 2 reports effectively, developing strategies to stay on track throughout the reporting cycle, and creating peer learning opportunities to foster collaboration and share best practices. If interested, this is the time to sign up. MHRAC service requests are open to districts through April 29th. We recommend that you reach out to your business official who can guide you through the budget process. If staffing changes prompt interest after this deadline, districts can still participate by submitting a budget amendment. And if you have any questions or would like additional information about our mentorship program, please don't hesitate to contact us at datawarehouse@mhric.org. And so with that, I will pass things over to Helen.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
We have updated our resource library to provide you better support for your data reporting and management tasks. So a quick look at what's new. We've significantly expanded our level 0 resources. You can find the eScholar templates, the law tutorial, and we have a new dedicated level 0 historical tab. This section includes essential tools such as direct links to the Level 0 historical portal and entitlement guides, a specific help page for student updates, and a comprehensive manual with screenshots to guide you through the process. We've also added a Level 0 and Level 0 historical data validation rules, which is an Excel file for you, and so that you can have this easy access. For level 1, we included a link for password resets. Under level 2, you will now find the L2RPT entitlement CETOS manual and a guide to CETOS roles to help manage user permissions effectively. Please take note of the new NYSED Business Portal password reset warning. It is vital to remember that resetting those credentials will affect all applications using CETOS, including the Business Portal, IRSP, IDEX, NYSIS, Level 0 Historical, L2RPT, and the PD system, and more. So when you do reset that level 2 password, note that it's not just going to be level 2, it's going to be a whole host of applications. Under the report guides section, we updated the NYSED resources and documents tab, which now features a helpful acronyms website link as well. And we added the reporting memo and timeline for this school year. Lastly, we added a brand new task list tab. So this section currently features the monthly task list designed to help you stay organized and meet all those deadlines that we've been talking about through this meeting. So we hope that those updates help make your process more efficient, and please go ahead and explore all the new tabs within there, and let us know if you have any feedback. Also, speaking of feedback, we have also updated level 0, the help section. So I don't know how many of you use the help area in level 0, but it is available to you. You can see here that there are a couple of items that are uploaded by NYSED each year. And we've also included the level 0 and level 0 historical data validation rules spreadsheet for you. So we'd like to know if you've ever used help, if you've used any documents in there, if you even knew it existed, and what you might like to see going forward added to this area. It's very easy access because it's right in level 0. So if you are interested in this at all, please take the survey once we distribute the task list. I do see the time. It's 9:59 a.m. We are officially at time for the meeting. However, we do have a few more slides. So if you need to leave, we totally understand. But if you want to hang in there for a little bit, we do have just a few more slides about what's coming up. So we do have the Deeper in the Data workshop with Dr. Brambos coming up on April 22nd. Last time I looked at the registration, we already have 31 people registered for this, which is really amazing. It is a free session open to really anyone in district who is interested, but it's specifically geared towards your superintendents, assistant superintendents, DDCs, business officials, and grant writers. All of these people have been contacted through a newsletter about this workshop particularly, but if you'd like to share it throughout your district, please feel free, and registration will be open until the day of. So we have that. These are, as you know, the DDC meetings and recordings. We always provide this with each meeting. And check this out, for 26, 27, these will be the new dates for the upcoming school year. So we have all of the meeting dates available for you. They are all on Tuesdays. And the registration links are there for you. So if you want to get a jump on things and register for each one of these meetings in advance, there you have it. Next month's meeting is scheduled for, oh, I don't know. When is it? Let's look. Next month's meeting is May 6th. I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. Data warehouse help desk. This is our hours of operation. Some contacts for you if you ever need to reach out to anyone here at the RIC. Some additional helpful links and resources for you. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for voice questions today. We did answer what we could in the chat. If you do have any outstanding questions that you would like to ask us, please go ahead and send us an email to datawarehouse@mhric.org. So, attention BOCES DDCs, we are going to have a BOCES conversation right after this meeting, so please stay on the meeting after we end the general meeting. The next meeting coming up will be on May 6th, like I said, and it is a Wednesday. So please make sure that that is on your calendars and that you've noted it is not a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday upcoming. So we appreciate you, and thank you for attending.